Hello everyone, welcome to Katharine's Creatures, and this is episode 68. And this is a series where I get to touch base and talk a little bit about various mythological creatures, beasts, beings, and the like, pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I'm not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything along the way, I apologize. I really do try, but I know errors must occur. Now with that said, this week we're actually going to be talking about an entity from Irish folklore called the fetch. And yes, kind of like let a dog fetch. And we'll get to that in a moment. But the fetch is essentially a double, a supernatural double, or like this apparition that looks exactly identical to a living person. And they're often thought of as omens. So again, a non-living kind of spectral entity that mirrors someone else. So there's definitely some vibes of other mythological creatures, and we'll get to that in a moment. But the omens, more often than not, are negative in design. A lot of people assume or believe that if you see a fetch, the person it is mirroring will soon depart this world, as in they will die. But that's not always the case. There were two men, their names are John and Michael, I think Bonham, and they reported that if you see a fetch during the morning hours versus the evening, an appearance of a fetch during the morning hours was actually a sign that someone was going to live a very long life. So the total opposite. But these kind of psychopomp characters, which if you heard some of these keywords before, you probably listened to the series going forward. But the psychopomp character of this entity who helps is either a harbinger of death to come or this person to bring a soul to their afterlife. And so the fetch kind of falls into that kind of overarching group. They do share similarities with the Germanic doppelganger, which we talked a little bit about last week. So that kind of double concept, but also has some similarities to other kind of psychopomps like British wraiths and entities like that. But a fetch, and this is why it is kind of in a way called fetch, yes, like a dog fetches, is because they're there to essentially fetch your soul and bring it to the afterlife. So actually it is kind of what it sounds like. Now, the fetch kind of started cropping up in Irish literature since the early 19th century and has been noted in various collections of lore during that time, including, I'm going to read this out, the tales by the O'Hara family, letters on demonology and witchcraft, and legendary fiction of the Irish Celts. So those are some of the titles of various books that, so, in quote, documented fetch. Now, more modern fantasy will refer to this entity in various ways. D&D, the tabletop role-playing game, and its universe that it's developed has the concept of the fetch in it, as well as even shows like Doctor Who, and there's been a fetch noted in a couple of those episodes as well. So, interesting character, fun name. But if you're curious about this or anything else, post them in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social media. I always love talking about all sorts of mythological creatures, especially some obscure ones, or a little more obscure ones like the fetch. And until next time, everybody, Skull.